Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Hello and welcome to round 4 of the RacingLab Summer GT3 Cup as the championship returns to Italy after kick-starting the championship here. But tonight we race on Imola, or officially as it's known as Autodrome Internazionale Dino Ferrari. Of course, it will forever be tainted by the tragedies of 1994, which prompted major revisions to its layout. But despite this, it remains as one of the most atmospheric and challenging circuits in Europe. Fast, flowing, with a fair amount of gradient to boot, Imola grew from a course laid out on public roads, as humble beings of so many tracks have, before being transformed into one of Europe's classic courses, providing a proper test for driver and machine. Its origins and location literally in a city centre mean there is often little room for error. I am Tim Cox. We've got Lewis Ward in the virtual production trailer, but right now, as always, I'm joined by Seb Bosher Williams. Seb, I know you love this place. You're a GT driver yourself. I think this is like your match made in heaven, isn't it? Really?
Oh, completely. It is one, if not the best track, I think, on iRacing to drive in a GT3. It's got such a mix of technical, sort of slow speed corners where you really have to thread the needle, and then faster, you know, Piratella turn 9 is a great example of a faster corner where you have to have so much commitment. The very anti-alta, the high-speed chicane sort of at the midpoint of the lap, you can gain or even lose so much time there. It's so rewarding when you get your lap perfect around here. It's going to be such a treat for the drivers out there tonight, and even more of a treat is the track temperature. It's relatively low, not that much wind in the air, so I think these drivers are really going to be relishing these conditions, and they're just going to have an absolute blast at one of the, one of the most classic racing circuits you can visit.
Just take you through the format for today's proceedings, as always, in the Summer GT3 Cup, or for regulars, or even people who are maybe tuning in for the first time tonight. We've got a close qualification session, which drivers have 10 minutes to complete 4 flying laps in before we head across into a 1 hour race. Pit stops are involved, but Seb, as we saw at Red Bull Ring, if the driver's clever enough, they can conserve enough fuel so that they, well, in Red Bull Ring's case, they didn't actually have to take on any fuel, but we saw last time out at Sebring, you know, having to take minimal fuel, those drivers who elected to fuel save, to sit in the slipstream to save even more fuel, and it really, really shakes things up. Of course, Red Bull Ring, let's not forget that the second place was decided for by one driver in the pit stops electing not to take their windscreen tear off, and one decided to do so, and they ended up swapping places where that extra minimal time of about a second and a half changed around drivers that were going to finish second and third, with Helvig getting ahead of Maivang.
I mean, it was absolutely crazy, wasn't it? And yeah, I mean, the drivers were really switched on at Red Bull Ring, and again at Sebring, where, you know, the rules stipulate that you have to come into the pits and get fuel, but there's no starting limit to the fuel. So if you can make it an hour on a tank, all you really have to do is the formality of coming into the pits and taking on a little bit of fuel. So I think we're going to see the same again here today. Imola is not really too much of a fuel hungry circuit, and there's actually a load of places that you can save fuel. We have a look at Steinbraten just coming in to the Variante Alta chicane. You can save a lot of fuel through here. Let the car coast, lifting coast on the braking zone, coast through the mid sector, the mid portion I should say, of the chicane. You can save a lot of fuel, and then down into the Retifilios. You can save fuel. It's downhill braking, so I think today we're going to see exactly the same as we did at Red Bull Ring. It's going to be about who can save the most fuel, and who you know, like we saw at Red Bull Ring, who can optimize their pit stop the most, and they will gain a lot of time. It's quite a long pit lane here, and Steinbraten almost continuing his form that we've seen, I mean, every round in the RacingLab series so far. Steinbraten to the top of our timing stands.
You've just alluded to that, said Steinbraten has achieved pole position in all 3 rounds so far this season, and to boot has taken all 3 podiums as well. If I was a betting man, Seb, I think he's going to be the favourite surely for tonight.
I mean, I don't think you'd bet against him. He's been, you know, so quick, and actually what seems to be Steinbraten's biggest strength is that, excuse me, once he gets into the lead of the race, he's just so consistent. He can build that gap, and he doesn't really sort of feel too much pressure. And I think tonight, where overtaking is even harder, you know, at Monza, where it was quite easy to get the overtakes done, Steinbraten, you know, if he can keep in the lead, I think you're right, he's got a really a good chance. But we've got a new name in our top 3, Rash Olsen, the number 8. He's in Audi, joined the series for the final 2 races, and he's looking really quick at the moment. 5/10 off Steinbraten. Steinbraten having done the whole season, as I alluded to, Rash Olsen, his first event. I think he could be a disruptor in the top 3, and, you know, he's unknown. You don't know if he's got better race pace, so that is going to be a really interesting dynamic to watch as we go through the race.
And to boot, Seb, it's been a lockout for Mercedes pretty much on the podium, except for Red Bull Ring, where Helvig decided to utilise the Ferrari instead. But Rash Olsen in the Audi, you can see a different manufacturer disrupting things and the status quo at the front of the field, as we just see Helvig now, of course, in the Mercedes, as he has been all season except for the 1 round, as we've just alluded to. Currently lying in 4th, second on the grid with this guy, the Audi R8 V10 GT3 of Rash Olsen of RPC Esports. Of course, Maivang's teammate as well to boot. Those two start currently provisionally 2nd and 3rd right now. We'll see a few games, a few team tactics come into play. Well, we haven't got long to find out. We've got 3.5 minutes left in qualifying. And a lot of our drivers heading out onto their 2nd flying laps. So Steinbraten about to come across the line, just on board with Rash Olsen there. So he heads down to Villeneuve, the scene of many a bit of action that we've seen recently. Trying to hook things up, but I'll tell you what, Maivang is improving massively. No improvement in Sector 1, but Sectors 2 and 3, purple. That means that he It's gone faster than anyone else. There's a little bit of curse to the commentator there. No improvement in Sector 4. He's going to be an interesting one to watch come across the line. There is the RPC Esports Mercedes. Just heading through the last couple of corners, and he's going to head across the line. What's it going to be? Is it going to be an improvement? Is he going to beat Stein Bratton to provisional pole? He's only a 10th off previously. Well, he improves, but oh, he misses out by 0.08 of a second. Frustratingly close, but in the same way, as close as it is, it's a million miles away because he still lies in second place. And Rash Olsen, he's on an improving lap, but there's no purple sectors in there. Won't be enough to get himself on pole unless he has an absolutely mesmerising final sector out of the Ravatsas. He heads across the entrance to the pit lane there using all of the green painted section as Steinbratton is going faster again. Rush Olsen crosses the line. And what is it going to be from him? Well, he goes faster but remains in third place at 140.554. But Steinbratton is on to a flyer as he's heading out of Ravatsa 1, Ravatsa 2. Underneath the gantry, foot flat to the floor. And what's it going to be? We're going to see an improvement from Steinbratton. Let's find out. Is this going to cement pole position for him? Well, he comes across the line, and there you go. Goes faster again, the first driver into the 139s with a 139.948. 3 tenths, nearly 4 tenths quicker than Meyervang. Wow. Seb, what can we say about Steinbratton? What can we say? I tell you what, Halvik's on a cracking lap. There's Bjorklund, another one of our new drivers this week. Currently lying in 5th for Simracing Norway. Yeah, another of our Mercedes runners. Formanson also on a improving lap. Royce, another driver as well, improving. Yet to set a time, had all his times deleted so far, the Audi driver. As is Espresso Ryan. Staying in 7th place with no improvement on that lap. But here's Bjorn Royce, as I mentioned, yet to set a time so far, and does. Gets the time on the board, a bit more of a bank lap, just narrowly missing off, displacing Loxon of the 5th row of the grid. He goes 11th. As Formanson improves, moves himself up in position, but still remains on the same row. So 4th row of the grid. He trades places with Ryan. Well, Seb, I think that's looking like Rude's going to be one of the last drivers across the line. It'll be interesting to see whether the Ferrari driver is going to improve at all. But I think we're looking like we're done and dusted at the sharp end of the grid. Steinbratton securing a 4th pole position of the season.
Yes, certainly so, and actually Rude was about like 50 meters away from actually getting his lap time through. He was quicker in all 5 sectors, I should say, but unable to get that lap in. So Rude starting in 9th, he's going to be really upset and quite annoyed already before we've even got the race underway.
Let's take you through your grid of round 4 of the Racing Lab Summer GT3 Cup here from Imola. On Apex Racing TV, it is Steinbratton, the 4th pole position of the season for him, with Meyervang joining him on the front row. Rash Olsen, he's on the 2nd row with Helvig, who's finished on the podium every single race so far this season. Likewise with Meyervang as well. Can they continue that rich reign of form? I don't have long to find out. Kim Andre Borkland, he's got Eric Sivertsen, all for company on the 3rd row of the grid. The 2nd highest of our Audi runners, obviously Rash Olsen being the highest. Then we've got our first and only Porsche, Thormanson in 7th place. He's got Espresso Ryan in the first of the 2 Ferraris running here today, with Rude being the other driver. He's in 9th, and Loxon, another one of our Audis here. We've got 4 Audis, 4 Mercedes. He starts from 10th and the 5th row of the grid. Royce and our very own Lewis Araya are going to round out the grid here. That's Lewis Araya can be seen on many a production here at Apex Racing TV. Great to see one of our own out there in the race. He's in the BMW M4 GT3, and the only BMW we love a good, us Brits, Seb, we love a good underdog, and especially with Lewis being one of our own as well, it's going to be a bit biased to hope really good things for him.
I think so. I mean, you're right. Everybody loves an underdog. I mean, it's crazy to think that we're talking about a BMW being an underdog. It's one of the most dominant cars on the grid in the GT3 field. Mercedes a little bit quicker, but BMW certainly strong. But nobody else choosing that option. We head final 2 corners, about to get this race underway. Watch for turn 1. There are curbs on the inside of the apex. If you hit them, your race is almost certainly going to be over before it's really started.
It's heading off behind the Porsche 9 safety car. That peels into the pits. Steinbratton controls the pace, and he's gone early as we get ready to go racing from round 4 from Imola as we go green, green, green. And I'll tell you what, Meyerbank's been caught napping. He's got Helvig and Rash Olsen swarming in his mirror as well. He moves left, he moves right, he moves back to the left again to cover everyone up because Helvig is in full attack mode. These two have been trading places, 2nd and 3rd every single round so far this season, and once again they're back at it as Helvig just heads to the inside, backs out of it. He's headed to Villeneuve for the first time. They run down towards Tozer, but Rash Olsen in the Audi is hot on their tail. And where can he come on his debut in the championship as we head up the hill? The anticipation builds into Piratella, this fast swooping left-hander. There is our other Audi, another one of Audi, Simpson, Bormanson under a bit of attack there from Loxon, as there is Lewis Wright already up 2 places than the BMW off the start of Olympus Esports. We head down into the iconic Acquea Minerale and then out of there and up the hill. And seems to have settled down a bit so far this set, but I tell you what, that run to the line, and what a battle between Meyerbank and Helvig.
I mean, Steinbratton once again just nailing the start. Already got 1.3 seconds between himself and Meyerbank in 2nd place. So he's done exactly what he needed to do. This battle for 2nd is going to rage on. Feels like Rash Olsen was caught out a little bit by Meyerbank's poor start. He was blocked in, had nowhere to go, and sort of feeling the effects of that. He's in 4th place, but if these two up ahead start squabbling, he'll be, I'm sure, on the back of this pack very quickly. Helvig and Meyerbank at it once again. Helvig onto the brakes into turn 2, fuel saving already. So Stefan Helvig wanting to play the long game. I think it's all going to be about who can keep their car the cleanest, don't run over the curbs, don't incur any more damage than absolutely necessary, and fuel save. Lewis Araya, though, not wanting to do any of that. Down the inside into turn 5. The Brianti Villeneuve runs a little bit wide. Superb move there. Gets past Thormundsen, the number 3 Porsche. So Lewis Araya, after not qualifying, already up 4 places, Tim.
A great start from the Olympus Esports BMW driver. And Seb, you alluded to the fuel saving from Helvig, who just, viewers might have caught that he just dropped the clutch heading in towards the corner to kill off the revs and invoke some of the fuel saving. Do you think his tactic may well be the RSR by G Performance driver to just sit in the slipstream of Meyerbank and not go for any attack and use that as additional fuel saving? Let Meyerbank just punch a hole there because Steinbratton has already checked out into the distance. We're only on lap 2 and he's already 1.6 seconds clear.
I think it is, although we saw riding on board with Meyerbank that Helvig flashing his lights, and you tend to do that as a driver to distract, to get into the head of the driver ahead of you. So suggest that Helvig wouldn't mind getting past Meyerbank, but I don't see why he would really. He's in the slipstream at the moment, he can save fuel, he's slowly gapping Rash Olsen in 4th, so it's all looking really good for the number 6 Mercedes. So if I was him, I would want to be, I should say, behind Meyerbank, fuel save, just bring the tyres in gently, and then maybe, you know, as you get closer to the end of the stint, that's when you start to, you know, to force a move, force a little bit of a mistake from Meyerbank up ahead. Because of course, while Helvig's being able to fuel save, he's being able to lift it coast, Meyerbank is unable to do that. He's the lead pack, he's having to keep pace. So, you know, while Helvig's you know, saving fuel off the Delta. Marvang is having to burn more fuel than he'd like, so it's sort of a win-win at the moment if you are Stefan Helvik in third.
Head up towards Piratella. Bit of a tricky call on that, isn't it, Seb? Because it just seems to tighten up on exit.
It really is, and there's a nasty off-track as well. We have a look at Lewis Araya coming through Piratella turn 9. You've got this sort of turn 10 as well, a continuation of turn 9. So easy to run wide, get an off-track, and there's a little bit of AstroTurf as well on the outside. If you find that, you're almost certainly going to be heading towards the wall. Very clean and tidy from Lewis through Acromandarali turns 11, 12 and 13 into the braking zone of the Variante Alta, taking quite a lot of inside curve for the first, avoiding the second curb. They're so tall around here. It's a real old school track. It's got big, you know, old style curves that will really damage the car if you even look at them funny, let alone riding over them. And then grass on the outside. It's such a tricky circuit. It's why drivers around the world adore Imola, and why I'm so happy, in fact, to see it back on the Formula 1 calendar, it getting some more recognition. Lewis in the slipstream, got Ryan and Stiverton ahead, and Arroyo's pace at the moment, Tim, is pretty mega. I think he's going to be soon past the two ahead of him.
I talk about the curbs there, Seb, because the BMW, one of its strong points is its ability to ride the curbs. It's a relatively easy car to drive as he gets a bit of a look in towards a Villeneuve there. Ryan just covering that one off. The Ferrari 488 GT3, and he squeezes into the side, and there's a bit of contact there into Tosa. And Arroyo using all of the width for that BMW M4 as Ryan's out onto the grass and squirreling, trying to get back onto the track. But, well, that could have ended up in tears for both of our drivers.
Not quite sure what Ryan was thinking there. Looked like from the onboard that Lewis Arroyo had all of the ability and the objective really to go down the inside. He left racing room, and Ryan just closed the door, and it was almost like a day late and a dollar short. He was, you know, by the time that he'd noticed that Arroyo was going to the inside, it was already too late. And have a look at the onboard now. This is Espresso Ryan Jr. You just see slightly moving in towards Lewis Arroyo's path, hard defending, and then just compound the issue. If you are Espresso Ryan, you run wide and you're on the grass, and there's just not any grip out there, and he has to sort of back off the throttle. Lost a lot of time. I mean, 4 seconds between himself and Lewis Arroyo. Just, you know, even if, you know, that let's say, you know, if it was Arroyo's fault, there's no point in fighting that hard this early on in the race. We've got an hour to go. Sometimes you've got to pick your battles. Ryan, in fact, comes into the pit, so he's picked up some damage from that contact. You just, sometimes as a driver, you have to know when it's your prerogative to fight and when it's not, and just to let the car go by if they're quicker, and just run your own race, because at the end of the day, it's going to save you so much time in the long run.
Our drivers do have one fast repair available to them, and just looking how far we are into the race, 7 minutes. Well, fuel saving, it is possible for Ryan to get to the end now. It is just about possible. So, I tell you what, he's going to be one driver we're going to have to keep half an eye on to see how things progress for him. Of course, he's fallen right down to the back of the order now after being the first driver to head into the pits. Last time around, though, Steinberaten not messing around and not hanging around either, taking the fastest lap of the race. But I tell you what, this group behind them, despite that initial early pace and that great getaway at the start from Steinberaten, they're keeping up with him. They're maintaining that gap. It hasn't grown from around about 1.6 seconds as we're on board right now with Arroyo. It's trying to hunt down Eric Sivertson, the team slow-mo ahead of us in the Audi R8. Head down the hill towards Ravazza, onto the brakes. And this is going to be all about here, Seb. Who gets the best exit out of the corner, because it really impacts your top speed, doesn't it, at the end of the straight?
It's so vital, and it's why you know, when you're driving, you almost get nervous when you exit Reversa 2 because it's so crucial. Araya in the slipstream decides that he wants to go around the outside of turn 1. Not going to be the easiest way to do it. Stiverton really trying to defend from this position, but Lewis just later on the brakes does that move cleanly before the apex of turn 2. So Araya now up into 6th place. Stiverton there did a perfect job, and that's what I was sort of saying about Ryan. You know, just don't fight it too much. You know, go to the inside, defend, but don't do a 50-50 do or die move. It's just not worth it. Lewis is just plain old faster at this moment in the race, but there's nothing to say that, you know, Roy might be, you know, burning out his tyres a little bit too much. It might come back to him, but it's all about time management. Ruud and Roy's side by side into turn 7. Tosa, Audi versus Ferrari. Ferrari comes off the better at the moment. A home favourite, isn't it, the Ferrari around here?
We are in Italy, and I tell you what, that was a big old lunge for Royce in the Audi there. So we look back from Ruud, and that was incredibly close there to an incident. I mean, I'm not quite sure how they didn't come to blows, because closing speed from Royce was dramatic, to say the least, Seb.
Yeah, it's so difficult from the cockpit, especially when you almost feel like you're going to make a mistake. You tense up, and that just makes it worse. So I've been in situations where after an incident like that, you come out and go, well, that was just pure luck that we didn't make contact, because I wasn't really in control of the car. Not saying that that was the case, but it's so difficult. You're driving at the absolute limit around here. It's such a high level of ability on the grid, so you have to bring your A game at every single corner. Helvig clutching in well before the braking zone into the Variante Villeneuve. So Helvig really saving so much fuel at the moment. I mean, not just lifting and coasting, actually fully applying the clutch. So, you know, he's trying to go for the maximum possible fuel saving strategy. So Helvig, I think, really one to watch as we get deeper into this race.
It's Helvig right now, and I'll tell you what, they've managed to drop Rash Olsen, who was initially keeping pace with them. The gap has extended out now to, well, they're around about 3 seconds as we look back in the background. There is the Audi, and you can really see that gap, the way that it has expanded. But I'll tell you what, the gap that hasn't expanded is between Maivang and Helvig, because Helvig pretty much seems glued yet again to the rear bumper of Maivang's car. Is a lot of fuel saving there from Maivang, guys. I'm sure there's a bit of the touch of, you know, Maivang saying, you know, to Helvig, as much as you can fuel save, I can fuel save better. They slipstream and head across the start-finish line, and I'll tell you what, for the first time as well there, Maivang just having a little bit of a look, just moving out of the wake of the car in front of him, and as he heads around to the outside onto the racing line. Seb, I think this is a double-pronged attack here from Helvig, because not only is he playing the fuel-saving game, from utilising that slipstream as well as, you know, tipping the clutch as he comes into corners, but also he's really pushing it. As we just see Formanson there, I think he's about to lose a place to Ruud, who's utilising the power of the Ferrari and its straight line speed. It's real strong point of that car, and that is the move done with Ruud up into 8th place. But just returning to that Maivang Helvig, well, as we see, I'll tell you what, Bjorklund, that is a riot already onto the back of him. Just having a little look at the lap times. I mean, outside of our leader, Steinblatten, last time around, Roya was the fastest driver on the track. And I mean, how high can he climb here, Seb? Because I suppose a lot of it depends on how quickly he dispatches off. And if he can have Bjorklund, as Bjorklund runs in deep, that's going to give him a slowdown as well to boot. Out of Aquamineral. And that is, well, job done easily there for 5th place for the Olympus Esports BMW driver.
I don't think Arroyo could have passed Bjorklund any quicker. Yeah, Bjorklund making the mistake into Aquaminerali, such a difficult section of corners. Not surprised that we're seeing drivers making a mistake through there. Lewis Arroyo really aware, actually, in fact, of Bjorklund rejoining the track. You're not really in full control of the car. We're having Helvig, though, having another look at Maivang into turn one, almost pushing him out of the way. Maivang holds the lead. It just seems like Helvig is almost pushing Maivang along, forcing him just to get out of his comfort zone, defending. And if he's, taking the defensive line into a corner, he's just not going to be fuel saving as much as Helvig, because, Maivang is not going to be driving the optimal line, therefore having to use more fuel to cover the same amount of distance. So Helvig has really got this race sort of under wraps at the moment in terms of the battle for second. Maivang either needs to let Helvig by and get the benefits that Helvig has been enjoying for the last 9 laps, or Maivang needs to decide that actually fuel saving is not going to be the way to go and just absolutely gun it, put in some Senna-esque qualifying style laps, get away from Helvig and just try and do something different, because Maivang is just, I think, any way that he goes at the moment, Helvig's got an answer for him.
I started on the point of, where it's a double pronged attack here from Helvig, because not only is he fuel saving being in the slipstream of Maivang, but also the way he's moving around into the braking sound behind Maivang. Of course, it's all legal, and we saw it down into, well, what a lot of people call turn 1. It's actually classified as turn 2 officially into the first part of Tamburello, but you saw him move out of the slipstream and pull out onto the racing line just to compromise the entry for Maivang. And I wonder if we're going to see this here again. It's almost like he's trying to mind punt Maivang into making a mistake and get him out of the way that way.
That's exactly what he's doing. He's trying to fill Helvig's mirrors in, fill Maivang's mirrors in, and just try and distract him, try and keep him, not allow him to get comfortable within the car, forcing him to drive on the dirtier side of the track. That's going to provide less grip. Maivang's going to have to brake early. The tyres are going to be hotter. And look at this, Rush Olsen just sort of starting to cruise up to the back of this fight. Maivang was really holding pace with Steinbraten for quite some laps, but ever since Helvig started, as you were mentioning, Tim, started diving around in the braking zones, really being a hassle for Maivang. Maivang is losing the pace. Steinbraten's running away. Rush Olsen is gaining on the pair. It's just it's a real supreme masterclass at the moment from Helvig, because I think something has happened to Lewis Arroyo. He is falling down the order, at least lost 1 position to Bjorklund in 5th.
Oh, there's a big incident there. That's Sivertsen off. Flash the lights. Well, I'll tell you what, here comes Ruud in the Ferrari. He's going to gain right up onto the back of them as these two get going, and there's nowhere to go for the Ferrari. Just the track blocked by the Audi. Oh no, and I think that's could be contact. Wow, how did Ruud avoid Sivertsen there as they came into Piratella? Arroyo had spun, and oh no, he just tags the Audi of Sivertsen as he was coming by. But then this is where it gets interesting, because watch the Ferrari coming through behind you. Now the Audi of Sivertsen is going to make a mistake and just run a bit wide. There's, wow, Ruud just unable to quite make his way past, and just off camera, it was, I tell you what, incredibly close for another incident involving Sivertsen. But well, Arroyo has lost a lot of time. He's now 16 seconds behind Bjorklund. As well, the Rasses again, they just will not leave one another alone. You can throw the perennial blanket over them as Arroyo and Sivertsen head into the pits. Unfortunately, we have had a retirement in the form of Loxon, one of our Audi runners, the Team Happy Life factory esports driver. So there's Team Slow Mode, Eric Sivertsen into the pits, and you can imagine fast repairs will be being used by both of our drivers. But with 18 minutes gone, again, we talked about it with Ryan. I tell you what, this is going to be an interesting one. Well, Ryan's going to come out ahead of them, so he's effectively in the lead of all the drivers that have pitted so far.
Yeah, it's looking like a fairly decent recovery drive from Ryan after actually making contact with Lewis Arroyo as well. I wonder if Ryan's going to have to fuel save a little bit more than Sivertsen and Arroyo, because 20 minutes gone in the race or thereabouts, you are going to be easily able to get to the end. Ryan, I think, is a little bit on the cusp. Bjorn Royce trying to get past Thormodson, and Audi versus a Porsche. The Audi, you know, one of the oldest GT3s on the iRacing grid. The Porsche, one of the newest, so it's such a better exit through the midsection of Acro Minerali for Bjorn Royce. He's going to go to the outside. He's on the racing line. Thormodson almost lets him by, realizes that Bjorn is quicker at this stage of the race. That Audi is so well suited to this track. It's a mid-engine car. It's got incredible amounts of turning. It absolutely adores circuits like this, and the Porsche is a very good car, but like circuits, they're a little bit less twisty and a little bit long, and have, I should say, a little bit longer straight. So the Audi just proving, it seems to him at the moment, to just be the better race car over the Porsche.
It's been an intriguing time for the Porsche in iRacing, hasn't it? Obviously came along and was incredibly popular, as naturally any new car is with iRacing, and it was highly anticipated. Of course, we had the Porsche 911 RSR, the GTE car, we had the Porsche Cup car within iRacing, but there was no GT3. And then when it came along, well, I think every man and his dog was driving it as Thormodson. Oh, he's going to have a bit of a look on Royce there, who made a mistake on the exit out of Villeneuve. And that is Thormodson up into 7th place. But
sorry to cross you there. It was like a gentleman disagreement at turn 7 Tosa. It's almost like of Royce was going, well, you know, come through, I made a mistake. Thormodson, you know, come by me. And Thormodson was saying, no, I'm more than happy to stay behind you. They had this like almost pretend argument at the apex of Tosa. Thormodson wins that in the end, but I think Thormodson was just letting off the throttle, going, well, you know, I see the Audi ahead of me, he's made a mistake. I don't really want to be embroiled with a battle for you. Royce took it a different way, and they just cost themselves, you know, a couple of seconds or so.
Yeah, it's just, you know, the Porsche doesn't seem to be as quite strong as it once was, as we see, well, 3 is separating second and third. It's Maivang versus Helvig, and in the head-to-head battle between these two, Helvig has come out on top. He's finished ahead of Maivang on 2 out of the previous 3 races so far this season. Of course, these two have taken the remaining podium slots, with Sty Bratton's lockout of 3 wins from 3 so far this season, and that is how close Helvig is to Maivang. I mean, if he gets any closer, Seb, he may as well get out of his own car and just jump in the passenger seat with Maivang.
That'd be quicker and more fuel efficient. That was incredibly close. For a minute, I thought we were watching more Formula E footage than GT3. I mean, that's one of the quickest corners of the track, one of the most difficult corners, I should say, as well. So to be running that close to the car ahead, it requires great skill from all involved. Helvig, though, just seems to be quicker. Seems like his tyres are in a better condition, has so much drive out of the second Rivazza down the back straight. I think this is the closest he's been for a while. Maivang tries to force them to the inside line. They touch on the straight. How did they not end up having a massive aeroplane accident? Helvig now thinks about trying the outside line, lifts off, decides that this is not his opportunity to overtake. Maivang goes a little bit deep though through turns 2 and 3. This is going to give the perfect opportunity for Helvig to go down the inside into the Variante Villeneuve chicane, but Helvig just fuel saving. But I'm sure to him they made contact on the almost straight down towards turn 2.
Do you like that phrase? The almost straight. And they did make contact, Seb. They did make contact. As, well, 3 turns separating. And it's been interesting, you know. Rash Olsen has been like a yo-yo to the pair of these two. Where he's been, you know, the gap has grown, it's shrunk again. And yeah, it's now in that stage where it's starting to shrink again once more. And as these two keep dueling it out, lap after lap, that just, well, I was going to say, it allows Rash Olsen to close right up onto the back of him. And look now, look at just how close he is in that Audi R8 the two Mercedes GT AMG GT3s. Yes, can you get enough G's and A's into your car name? Maivang and Helvig is oh so close, and let's not forget Seb as well. Maivang and Rash Olsen are teammates. They're both RPC esports drivers.
Yeah, Stefan Helvig, very much the meat in an RPC esports sandwich. Helvig, I mean, it is going to be worrying him, it being in the middle. You know that you've got teammates ahead and behind you. Rash Olsen, I'm not sure if he's saving more fuel, being a little bit more extreme with his fuel saving, or if he just doesn't have the pace of the top two. But the more these two squabble, the more Rash Olsen comes back into this race. I'm really fascinated to see the difference between when Mervang and Helvig have to come into the pits and when Rash Olsen can, because if he can extend a few more laps, if he can run on lower fuel, which naturally the car is quicker, you've got less weight in the car, he could get the overcut on second and third, and Rash Olsen could be looking at a really handy result in his first ever RacingLab appearance. So, are these two, second and third, are they costing themselves too much time with all this squabbling? Is Rash Olsen playing an absolutely strategic masterclass at the moment in fourth place?
25 minutes nearly completed out of the hour. We've got a replay. So this is Atul Rude with the Ferrari. What is going to happen to me? So this is, catches the grass. Just dip the rear right onto it, and the entrance into Villeneuve, and well, that could have ended up far, far worse, especially where that car just snapped instantly on him.
I think you'd be lying if anybody that's ever driven at Imola has said they've never done that. That's one of the risks of driving at Imola. Grass is everywhere, and as soon as you get a wheel in the grass, you are going to spin. The car is so loaded, it's demanding as much grip as possible from the tyres. Helvig gaining on Mervang, and we're going to see fireworks like we did a few laps ago, Tim.
Let's find out, because here comes Helvig. What is he going to do? Moves out to the right-hand side, and once again onto the racing line, making Maivang think right now. Inside his head, and you're saying about Rude's spin and lack of grip on the grass. Well, it does have to cool the tyres as well, as we found out incredibly recently in a big way at the Spa 24. Hats off to our very own Apex Racing team as well. That's just the team, esports team associated with Apex Racing TV, on endeavouring not to join in with all the others and elected not to onto the grass like so many were. Last one victory for those guys. But a shout out to one of our sponsors of our many sponsors here, Apex Racing TV. Let's talk about SDK Gaming. If you're looking to add a live virtual HUD to iRacing to show timing towers, enhance relative boxes, mini-maps and fuel calculators, you were able to do so, and allows you to adjust strategy on the fly with the most accurate live timing on iRacing. And I'll tell you what, that fuel calculator, it comes in so handy around endurance events where you're able to see your fuel usage, how much time you've got left with fuel. Great for timed events rather than laps events. It does also, of course, show laps as well. You can also use it to broadcast your leagues and series, like we do for all of our broadcasts here at Apex Racing TV. It allows you to sync your commentary team's cameras, focus on the driver, and overlay with your broadcast. Make sure you check them out. There is also a 14-day free trial available as well. Dip your toe in the water and find out all about all the great features of SDK Gaming. And now we're on board with our leader with 27 minutes complete, just nearly up to the halfway stage here. Ollie Steinbratton leads. Yet again, a commanding performance for him, nearly 11 seconds clear. That battle we've seen for so long. So much of the race between Maivang, Helvig and Rash Olsen being in and around there all the time. That's your top four. Bjorklund in fifth, in a bit of a bubble by himself right now. And then we'll start off a bit of a train of cars that are getting closer together. Rude in sixth in the first of the two Ferraris running here today. He's at 3 places so far. Great drive from him. Frode Formanson, our loaned Porsche 911 GT3. There he is. He's in 7th. Bjorn Royce, second of the Audi runners. He's also at 3 places as well, into 8th. Especially Ryan, first of our drivers to take to the pit. Now he is only 9/10 away from Royce as well, so that's at least 1 position bare minimum he will be gaining. In fact, I do believe he should actually jump to 2, possibly even 3. Should get ahead of Formanson and possibly Rude, as we just had another new fastest lap of the race there from Steinbraten. Eric Simpson, he's going to run out your top 10 with Lewis Raya back out and running after that incident he had in 11th, and after an absolutely amazing biblical start from the Olympus Esports driver in the lone BMW. And Loxton we lost back on lap 6. We're currently on lap 17. She's lap 18 even. And what can Araya do to hold himself back on the field? As much as you see a car ahead of him, that is your leader, Steinbraten. And right now, Araya currently 5 seconds behind Sivertson. He's ahead of him in the standings right now. Seb, one of the features within this championship is that marbles and dust are left on the track. Obviously, marbles are little deposits, build-ups of rubber that come off the car and create little balls, and hence why they're called marbles.
And also because they're called marbles because they provide absolutely no grip if you run over them. It feels like you're walking or driving on marbles. You know, you just don't have contact anymore with the track surface. You're all on discarded rubber. It makes overtaking extra difficult, especially, you know, if you're Steinbraten, let's say, if you're lapping other cars. You know, you tend to lap cars by going offline. You can lose so much grip from the tyres, and it can really catch you out. You know, Steinbraten's got a 12-second lead at the moment, and if he's not thinking about it, if he's not aware that maybe when he heads into the next corner, especially, you know, we've got some high-speed corners at Rally, if the grip isn't there, he's going to be on a one-way ticket to the wall, and that can be race over. So it really is not, you know, as simple as just lapping away for Steinbraten. There are real considerations, like as you said, the marbles. He's got traffic as well, and Rash Olsen, he wants, I think, to get past Helvig. Helvig not really making the impact that he was maybe making on Maevang a few laps ago, and it now looks like Rash Olsen, he thinks that this is his time to have a little bit of a go, a little bit wide from both of the pair through turn 6, but I think Rash Olsen is going to start to have a look at making a move on Helvig.
Tell you what, Ryan has made his way past Royce, which just going to see a replay of now. A dive to the inside into Tosa. I think because the drag race out of the corner, the Audi just running that little bit wide of Royce, and that's what allowed Ryan to capitalise as they ran up the hill towards Piratella. Ryan on the inside, onto the brakes, and that is the move done in confident style. Ryan up into 8th place, and of course Royce yet to stop as well, so to compound for the Audi driver. But there are your, well, 3 cars battling over 2 podium places. Who's going to take them? Will it be Marvin Halvik again for the 4th time this season? Or can Rash Olsen disrupt the party? So we're heading into now to the second half of the race. Let's find out, because Seb, I get the feeling that tactics are going to start to change slightly as drivers start to find that they can make it to the end. And I'll tell you what, Maevang, we've seen him go strongly defensive as moving around there. Halvig dipping, diving and dodging his way, trying to find a way through as Maevang just positioning his car there to prevent Helvig from making a move, but Rash Olsen is right onto the rear and he is all over Helvig. Well, like a Rash, like his name depicts, as they head through Villeneuve, the short run to Tosa, this tight left-hander that seems to last for an absolute eternity, and then it would go up the hill towards Piratella, the fast swooping left-hander, like so many of Imola's fast swooping corners. And I tell you what, Seb, it's close. 6 attempts separating 2nd and 4th.
And if any one of these drivers has a little bit of a moment as it's so easy to have around this track. We've seen from other drivers, I mean all three of them I should say, will end up involved in a big accident, so there's a lot of pressure driving in a pack like this. Helvig, I think, has got it the hardest. It's going to be really mentally draining for him. I've been having a look at Rash Olsen's sort of off-board, on-board shots, and I think we can confirm it here. He just isn't fuel saving as much as Maivang and Helvig up ahead of him. Tim Olsen, I think, or Rash Olsen, I should say, not really wanting to play that fuel saving game. I expect him to be coming into the pits earlier than the two ahead of him, but that could be advantage to Rash Olsen. He can get in early, run a few laps without these two squabbling up ahead of him, and maybe just undercut them all.
Oh, wow, that was a big twitch there from Maivang as Rash Olsen heads to the outside and he swoops round and he's taking the place from Maivang, and he bumps across the curbs and they make contact there. And it's ended in tears for the pair of them as Rash Olsen lights up the rear tyres, flicks the car back round, and off into the distance goes Maivang. And Seb, it was getting a bit too close. And that is what happens when everyone gets a bit carried away. I mean, wow, it was so close, and Rash Olsen just hanging it right around the outside, and he just caught the grass and then just bounced across those treacherous sausage curbs that have caused issues in not only the sim world, but also in real life in recent times. I mean, the iconic image of where in one of the GTs in the European sprint series, where it hit one of the sausage curbs at Monza and literally lifted the car off, and the door came flying off. Of course, the doors only are held on incredibly lightly. It's not like your road car, but even so, yet again, sausage curbs causing trouble.
Yeah, and for Helvig, he did everything he could to avoid the incident. He gave plenty of room on the outside, really kept it tight through turn 2 to allow Rash Olsen to go around the outside. It was just Olsen taking too much speed in, hitting those curves, losing the grip. You have a look on board from Helvig. So Helvig leaves more than an Audi's width, you have to say, and Helvig just now into the gravel. And it's so easy for these cars to spin. They're so loaded through the Varianti and Tam Borello. It's so difficult for these cars to stay glued to the track, so even a light pinprick movement to the rear of the car will send them spinning. So I think Helvig's going to be absolutely gutted with that one. He really had the blinders on the strategy over Maivang. He was pushing Maivang into making mistakes, into having to fuel save not maybe as optimally as Maivang would have liked. It looked like Helvig was in the best seat to get that second place, but the time difference now between Odin Maivang and Stefan Helvig is 7.5 seconds, and I just don't see Helvig being able to undo any of that damage within the 24 minutes that we have, unless Odin Maivang has some form of mistake, like Helvig and Olsen had a few laps ago.
I tell you what, it's drama again here. Well, not just as in Imola, we've seen plenty of drama here at Apex Racing TV, but yet given the Summer GT3 Cup. So there is Helvig and then Rash Olsen, respectively. It's such a shame because we're in for an absolute grandstand finish. 23 minutes left on the clock in round 4. As that is Bjorn Royce into the pits. Here's a pit stop, and I get the feeling we've seen quite a few drivers stop around now.
I think any of the drivers that haven't really committed to that fuel-saving strategy, like we saw from the top two, the really extreme fuel-saving, clutching in, 100, 200 meters before the braking zone. I think, yeah, that is where we're going to see all of the drivers, come into the pits. Just seeing Bjorn Royce only was stationary for 4 seconds, and it seems that most of the other drivers were around a similar time frame, so not having to take on too much fuel. I wonder if Maivang and Helvig were simply trying to go to the end without having to take on any more fuel at the pit stop, just have almost as I said earlier, the formality of having to come into the pits. I'm like you, Tim. I'm a little bit gutted, actually. That battle was set up absolutely beautifully. We had, Rash Olsen not fuel saving, maybe going to pit a little bit earlier. Helvig with the most amount of fuel saving, and Maivang sort of somewhere in the middle. Maivang picking up so much understeer through the Akram in a Raleigh section turn at 12, and that is simply just from the dirty air that's bleeding off that Audi up ahead of him. You hear about it, in single seaters, but it really does occur in the GT3 series. Thankfully, that Audi pulls off to the outside. I think that's Eric Stiverton just getting out of the way. But Maivang, I mean, that just goes to show, riding on board, of how easy it is to make a mistake around here, especially if you encounter traffic. Maivang, this battle isn't over for certain, but it certainly isn't as exciting as it maybe could have been.
Well, never do personal best there from Ole Steinbraten as towards the Grand Chelem here. What's that award going to a driver who qualifies on pole, leads every lap, it's the fastest lap of the race, and takes the victory. With stop right now, Ole Steinbraten has all 4 of those. Can he hold on to this lead? Well, he's got a comfortable advantage because it's 15 seconds between himself and Maivang in 4th. As he's slowly but surely heading away into the distance. You see, quite a bit of traffic there on lap 22, just lost a few tenths compared to Maivang, but then it was business as usual for Steinbraten as he continued his form of extending the gaps. Ironically, 911 numbered car. It isn't a Porsche. Here we go, so replay here. So this is on board with Bjorn Royce down towards Villeneuve. What are we going to see? Oh, that looks a bit deep. Yes, it is. He's off into the gravel, and well, just avoided that wall on the left-hand side step. It comes at you really, really quick, and once you're out into the gravel, you've got very limited control of the car.
Yeah, that all started actually for the Audi on the entrance to Villeneuve. Just picked up a bunch of understeer. The car with the front tyres not doing anything near what the Audi driver was expecting, and then from then on you're out of sequence. In great job to not end up in the wall. You're right, as soon as you get on the gravel, it almost feels like it's a dead certainty you're going to end up in the wall and have to explain to your team, well, how you made sort of what feels like from the car quite a rookie mistake, but easily done. He saved it. He can head on. Steinbraten coming through the exact same portion. Oh, that's a little bit of rear locking onto the brakes into turn 7 Toaster. And what I mean by that is, the rear tyres just almost having too much braking responsibility. The rear tyres doing too much braking. The rear tyres not having enough grip anymore to provide the traction he needs. Steinbraten, a little bit of oversteer, and he'll be wanting to avoid that. That's going to generate heat in those tyres. It's going to make the rear end a little bit looser for a few corners. Steinbraten, it feels like, Tim, we've seen him in the lead of other races, but this to me feels like the one, although he is 15 seconds ahead of the pack, where he's most under pressure. We're not seeing that really clean driving we've seen from him before. He's making these little mistakes. He's having to lap traffic and losing a little bit more time than I think he normally would. So Steinbraten, he is in the lead by, quite a big margin, but it just feels to me that he's feeling the pressure out there.
Or is he, Sam? Is he playing a bit of a game here where, because he's got such an advantage, just maybe backing off a bit to bring his tyres back towards him? Well, they might be getting, a little bit overheated from, lap after lap pushing, but he's now, thinking about the long game here. I mean, even so, still very easy to, run the tyres for the hour. GT3 so will last beyond that, but I sense maybe just just backing off so that he's got the grip available to him when he needs it most. But that tire temperature is creeping up. It's now to 29 degrees Celsius. That's around a couple of degrees. Local time here in Imola is 5 to 10 in the morning, so it is only going to get hotter throughout the remainder of the race. We've got 17 minutes remaining.
Steinbraten having a little bit of a mid-corner correction through Piratella. I think you're right. I think he is, managing his tyre temperatures, but I don't really remember Steinbraten in any other race having to do that. He's just sort of been able to do that just by his natural driving style. It feels like Steinbraten's just got more workload going on in the car at the moment. I mean, beautifully through the Variante Alta, just placing the car exactly where it needs to be. Marvan very wide, in fact, on the exit of turn 12. We'll be surprised if he gets away without at least a 1x. Really wide, so easy to pick up an off-track and a slowdown. In fact, on the exit of turn 12, again, as you see on the exit of turn 15, the second part of the Variante Alta chicane, again, very easy to run wide, gain a 1x. Of course, Tim, that's something that the drivers are going to have to be aware of. There is an incident limit. It's 20 incidents before you have to serve a drive-through penalty. And, if you've had any sort of contact, any door banging earlier on, that's going to really eat in to that allowance. So it feels we're in sort of a management stage at the moment. 16 minutes to go in the race, but it's all about managing your fuel, managing your tyres, managing your pit stop, and anything could happen. I think Ruud actually has come off the track, just managed to rejoin. That's the 6th place, our lead Ferrari driver. And what's going to happen to the 95? And is this going to be into turn 7, Tosa corner?
Wow. Just ran out of grip there, Seb, didn't he? Maybe yourself being our resident GT expert here at Apex Racing TV. Did he carry too much speed there and that's what caused the rear to go away from him? Or too aggressive in the turn in? What do you think caused it?
I think it's probably a combination of going a little bit too quick into the corner, probably carrying a little bit too much brake as well heading in. We saw Steinbraten make the same mistake where he just had, rear locking. There was too much braking force applied to the rear tyres, and the tyres simply have a finite amount of grip, and you have to sort of trade that between your braking and your turn-in forces. So I think everything just happened a little bit too late for Ruud. He was a little bit late on the brakes, tried to carry extra speed into the corner, maybe with a little bit more brake pressure involved, and the rear tyres are simply going to say, I can't manage that. What's happened to Bjorn Royce? This is into the Variante Villeneuve, again running a little bit wide through the first part, turn 5, and that just forces him to run wide through turn 6. Manages to escape the gravel, unlike a few laps ago where he, as we mentioned in commentary, almost hit the wall. Have another pit stop. Thormodson, I should say, now into the pits. Our only Porsche driver, but it just seems, Tim, that drivers are struggling out on track at the moment.
One driver that's not struggling, Ole Steinbraten, last time around, the fastest lap of the race, 140.96. First driver to get into the 140s in racing conditions. And I tell you what, I said to keep one eye out for Espresso Ryan, the Ferrari 488 GT3, the Team Slow-Mo car. There he is right now, number 12. Because he pitted ridiculously early on, all the way back on lap 4. We're currently on lap 28, sorry. And he is up to 7th, which is actually one higher than where he qualified. So I tell you what, it's working so far for him here, Seb.
It is, he made that contact earlier on with Arroyo back, sort of the opening couple of laps, and you're right, coming into the pits, not carrying that damage, just running his own race, really working for him. A great recovery drive from the Ferrari driver. Ruud is some 24 seconds up ahead of him. We saw Ruud making that mistake at Toaster Corner last time by. Espresso Ryan Jr. could be looking at a top 6 finish tonight into the top half of the grid. We've still got 30 minutes of racing to go. Actually, scrap all what I've just said. Ruud is yet to pit, so Ruud is almost undoubtedly going to drop behind Ryan. So even better job from Espresso Ryan Jr. Really just goes to show that you can out-strategize your race. You can gain positions from having a good strategy. It's not all about, how quick you can be out on the track. If you have a good strategist, if you are, naturally able to think about strategies on the fly, you can gain a whole lot of positions. It really is a team effort in motorsport.
Okay, replay now. So there's Formundson. He's heading out of the pits. That's okay. I was a bit worried something might have lost it on pit exit there. replay of the Audi of Bjorn Royce. Too much curb. There you go. Oh, wow. I mean, surprised the rear went around on him just like that, really, Seb.
I think that's a classic case of understeer turning into oversteer. Again, Bjorn Royce just not having the front end bite to hook the Audi over the first part of the Variante Alta, so it set him wide for the second part, tried to turn in with the same amount of speed, lost the rear end. That Audi is not looking fun to drive at the moment. Bjorklund, the number 5 Mercedes, he's got damage to the front end of his car, and he's going to take a fairly quick earned trip to the grass. A very good donut. I mean, superb. It didn't even come off the throttle.
I styled that one out there. Kim Andre Bjorklund. Wow. He gets a 10 from me, Seb. He gets a 10 from me. But there's your leader in terms of all the drivers that have pitted so far. Espresso Ryan of Team Slow-Mo. I believe he will get held ahead of Attelrud, although we're seeing a replay, and I'm getting nervous now, Seb, because this probably means there's an incident in... Oh, so cut across the track. Okay, I'll get away with that one. He will have to serve a slow down time penalty because he's been cutting the course like that. But I can't still in one piece, and that is the main crucial thing, isn't it?
It is. He tried to avoid exactly what Roy's encountered, you know, felt that the car wasn't turning in, maybe carrying a little bit too much speed into the apex of turn 14, decided that just wasn't going to happen, and you've got a really high likelihood of ending up backwards. You're going to hit the curb in an awkward position for the car. The rear end is going to snap on you and you spin, so just take the hit, just run across the grass. You know, you will, as you mentioned, have a slowdown, but it's so much better to serve that than, you know, to either, you know, lose 20 or so seconds with a spin or gain some floor damage, which is going to cost you even more time over each consecutive lap. So especially Ryan Jr. Really switched on there, knew that the car wasn't going to get slowed down for the Variante Alta, decided against it, and really saved his race. And you're right, he's looking at a 6th place. Bjorklund a little bit too far up ahead of him, but Bjorklund made that mistake into Ravatsa 1. That car has got some damage. Ryan even could be looking at a top 5 if the cards fall in a particular way for him. A little bit of traffic there. That's Helvik trying to get by, flashing his lights. He was doing that all along to Ma Vang. He's got good practice, has Helvik, of using that flasher button. Gets past the Ferrari easily into the braking zone of Ravatsa. And a little bit of a friendly flash there from Ryan. Flashback to say, I saw you. I love when the drivers... It's a communication form between everybody on track, and you'll always see this in motorsports, and it always sort of brings a smile to my face, because I just love the fact that these drivers are racing around this track at, you know, 150 miles an hour and still have time to flash each other and have sort of a pseudo conversation.
It is cracking, isn't it, Seb? Especially at night time during endurance events. That for me is where it's, like you say, it's got a really, it gives you a nice warm fuzzy feeling when you can see drivers having a conversation by using their lights. Not always in anger. Sometimes this is saying, you know, I'm coming past. Oh, there you go. Thank you. Good luck. Off you go. You see it, I mean, really notably in the Nürburgring 24 hours, the Spa 24 hours, of course, we had very recently on iRacing, where they've pitched back parts of the circuit late at night and everyone's getting along with one another. You're into your groove. Of course, we're not going to have that issue here today in Italy. The Emilia Romagna region. We are heading, well, 10 o'clock local time in the morning, so don't have to worry about things getting dark because we have got 7 minutes and 40 seconds left on the clock. And what a race it has been so far. Drama from start to finish, really. And what twist of the tail are there left here from Imola? Well, there you go. Steinbaraten, another new fastest lap of the race for him. Still the only driver to get into the 1 minute 40s in racing conditions. I got to admit, Seb, I am gutted that Myvan, Halvig and Rash Olsen all came together at Tamburello, because that was just teeing up to be an amazing battle for the ages between those three.
Really was. I'm equally as gutted, I'm sure. Helvik, Rash Olsen as well. very upset. Marvang probably less so. He's really benefited from that spin for third and fourth. But it was so fascinating. It was almost perfect in the way that it was set up. We had three very different strategies, three very different styles of driving, you know, two manufacturers. It would have been amazing. But, you know, we have another race. We have one more race to go in this series. Daytona next week, and Daytona, I'm sure, is going to provide even more drama. Such a good track for overtaking around there. Fuel saving is going to be even more crucial, if you can even imagine something like that. I mean, we've seen so much today, but Daytona is going to be on a whole another level. So, you know, but yeah, I am gutted, and I'm sure, you know, if we speak to our top three, there'll be some disappointed drivers, I'm sure.
Well, as there is your leader into the pits, gets it stopped just in time. The pit limiter line, and Rude follows him in from 6th place. Biggest climber here today. Well, apologies, he was biggest climber. He's at 3 places, but Ryra is coming back through the field. Once again, the Olympus Esports driver at 4 places in our lone BMW here today in today's race. But my van keeps going again. So Steinbaraten won't lead every lap, as Helvik is in as well. There he is, the RSR by G Performance driver. What could have been? And using the age-old trick though, of swapping between gears, heading down the pit lane to get that extra kilometre an hour out of the car and still keep it within the limiter range. You can hear it going on there once more on the pit exit. Now, after the shakedown, where has that put Espresso Ryan? Well, he's now up into 6th place. Driver to head to the pits for very first. All the way back on lap 4. Currently, we are on lap 33. That's how long ago it was. And he is going for gold. And I'll tell you what, Seb. When Bjorklund comes out of the pits, it's going to be very close between himself and Ryan. By my calculations, that is.
Ryan's had a superb pace so far, but, you know, that could all be undone. Lewis and Ryan gaining on Ryan. If these two continue to scrap and cost themselves time, Bjorklund could sort of be running away with 5th place. The windscreen wiper going on Arroyo's car, so that is a new feature, actually, of the GT3s this season. You can use your wiper to clear the dirt. It's so helpful when you're in the heat of battle, especially when you haven't been into the pits for a few, you know, for 10 or so laps. The car gets really dirty. Marvang deciding not to do that changing gear trick into the pits, Tim. He's just keeping it in 3rd. Some drivers actually drive without the pit limiter on just to gain that extra kilometre. You can, if you're really good with it, you can gain a couple of seconds in the pit stop, and it's what we see at sort of the higher echelons of the iRacing Pro scene. Marvang into the pits, quick stop from him. Rash Olsen also into the pits. So the two drivers that I thought weren't necessarily doing the most fuel saving, Marvang and Rash Olsen, have gone a lap longer than Helvik and Steinbaraten, so incredible fuel mileage by those two.
Well, I mean, Marvang, I can hear him fuel saving, you know, as you pointed out earlier as well, Sid, but Rash Olsen is the one for me that's the intriguing one, is seeing Raya. This is against Ryan. BMW versus Ferrari, the battle for 6th for now, but Bjorklund is the driver who's stayed out the longest. Right now, can he extend his stop any further? Intriguing to see, but this is game on the battle for 6th. I'll tell you what, Seb, by my calculations, by the time Bjorklund's taken his stop, he's going to come out not that far in front of these guys.
Yeah, it's going to be incredibly close, and I mean, could I hope for a 3-car battle for the last couple of minutes in this race? I mean, Bjorklund, I mean, I would love to know his fuel numbers. It's crazy how long he's managed to keep that car going. Roya really not delivering on what he promised earlier on, Tim. You know, he had so much pace, it was looking like, you know, he'd be an easy top 5, even a top 4 contender, but just not having the luck. Made that contact, had that spin, I should say, and made contact, I think, with Roy's on the rejoin. Ryan Jr. running wide into Ravazza 1. That's going to put him offline for Ravazza 2. now down the straight. The Ferrari is quicker in the straight line naturally, but Arroyo has got that BMW power and the slipstream. This could be a move here, Tim.
Is it going to be a move, Seb? Well, I'll tell you what, Arroyo just pulls out of the slipstream. He goes down to the inside, but we've seen time and time again, if Ryan can hold on around the outside, well, he can't, but bumbling across the curbs there and just killing off the momentum of Ryan. Goes Arroyo. But here comes the Ferrari having a bit of a look into Villeneuve. But look who's joined the fight. It's Atul Rude, another one of our Ferrari drivers. And Seb, you were asking for a freeway battle to the finish. Well, we thought it may well be Bjorklund was joining in with these guys. It's not, it's Rude. And I've just clocked as well, so at the back of that last camera shot, our leader's coming around. No, sorry, apologies, no it's not, it's Maivang even. So he's got to clear 3 battling cars that are currently all scrapping it out for 6th place in the field. And Ryan now ahead of Ryan. That means he's up 6 places. With Simon Bratton setting another new fastest lap of the race. It seems to be lap after lap pretty much at the moment at 140.54 from him. This battle starts to harsh up, but we're gonna this is going to be close here. I'm just keeping one eye on where Steinbraten is. Actually, yeah, he's only just crossed the lines there, Seb. So the white flag flies. We have got 1 lap left to go here. The Summer GT3 Cup from Imola in round 4. This is Formandson. Into Piratella and loses the rear end. A bit of a lighting up the rears there in frustration. But so where are these guys out on track? Well, this is going to be their final lap as well. They're just heading down towards Villeneuve, so this is fully game on. Arroyo has managed to pull away from them, so this is a 2-way fight between 2 Ferraris in Italy over 7 places. You can see the different lines coming in there. Rude just swooping around, trying to carry more momentum off the corner. The defensive line from Ryan covering him off. Both getting a very similar exit off the corner. As I mentioned, behind them is Maivang. As Ryan is slow off the corner there. Out of Piratella as we head down the hill in towards Acromiro. But unable to capitalise is Rude and just losing a bit on the brakes. So we head to our leader. It has the Ravazzas to go. Oh, he races to the line. Probably a bit unbeknown to the drama and action that's going on. Not that far behind him, but to make it 4 wins for him 4 and to take the championship, I believe it's going to be Steinbraten here in Italy from Imola in round 4. There's Maivang. I was going to say he had front row seats, but something has happened to Rude to just drop back a little bit on this last lap. They were pretty much nose to tail coming out of Acromilorali, but Maivang holds on to 2nd place. Ryan picking up 7th. Nice Halvik along across the line.
Rush Olsen going to come across the line in 4th place. A superb debut race in the RacingLab GT3 Summer Series. I think he'll be disappointed though with that. Of course, made contact with Helvik into turn 1 after Maivang and Helvik were battling for so long. Kim Andre Bjorklund, he's going to be in 5th place, quite some way off the back of P4. Bjorklund got damage to the front end of his car. I'm not quite sure, Tim, if we managed to pick up where that happened, but that does not look like a healthy Mercedes at all.
Wow, it's definitely looking a bit battle-scarred, isn't it, to say the least?
I don't think we'll be seeing that chassis again in 1 week's time as we head to Daytona. I think that's going to be written off. That's some substantial damage.
I don't know. It's I think definitely bodywork's there, but I think the core chassis of it may well be okay. But either way, it's definitely spending some time in the workshop, that car. I think that's one thing we can definitely agree with it on there. But, well, our top 3 are exactly the same as they were last time out at Sebring. So this is Bjorkland. So as he comes across the line, is it self-inflicted? So he's taken the white flag there, so he's heading out onto his last lap. Let's have a look, down to Sambarella.
Is he going to run over the curves?
No, seems all okay. Seems all okay.
It did seem like he picked up more damage there, Tim. The car looked, a little bit damaged heading, down the straight into turn one. But after he hit those curves, the car looked like it had more damage. So I wonder if there's been a little bit of damage that's just gotten worse and worse every lap when you go over the curves. And when the car comes back down, the suspension compressive, the bodywork is there. And, it's sort of been a cumulative damage to his car.
Let's just take you through your classified results here from Imola in round 4 of the RacingLab Summer GT3 Cup, and make it 4 wins from 4. Steinbraten heads to the top step of the podium once again. That's a dominance in this championship so far, with Maivang picking up second and Halvik in third, a repeat of where they finished last time out at Sebring. Now, that now makes it honours even, with both drivers having 2 seconds and 2 thirds so far this season. Who's going to come out on top of that little micro battle? We find out next time from Daytona. Rash Olsen, well, he could have been there, but that contact with Halvik really putting pay to both of their races ultimately, and Rash Olsen has to settle 4th place. Commander Bjorkland, in a little world of his own, really. It comes home in 5th. Raya, well, if it hadn't been for that spin and contact, where could he have finished? 6th. This way he finishes in the end. First driver 1 lap down. Espresso Ryan, well, a cracking battle between himself and Raya first off, and then Asselrud. The early pit stop looked crazy, but it worked for him. He finishes in 7th. With Ruud in 8th. Team Slow-Mo driver Eric Sivertson in 9th, and Frode Formanson running at your top 10. 2 laps down was Bjorn Royce and Stian Loxon. We lost all the way back on lap 6 some 31 laps ago. But let's have a bit of a chat to some of our drivers. And first off, going to be joining us in the commentary booth is your race winner here today. 4 wins from 4, 4 pole positions from 4 as well. Ollie Steinbraten, welcome along. If I was a betting man, there's got to be good odds surely on you making the clean sweep at the final round next week in Daytona.
Yeah, it's definitely looking good. I also think there is a drop week, I think. So with 4 wins, it should be settled already. But yeah,
That's
of course.
What I believe as well. Obviously we're waiting for it to be fully confirmed, but I do believe this does make you the champion elect.
Yeah, I think so as well. But of course, I have to help out Stefan against Odin. So I expect to be doing the next race as well, hopefully.
Definitely be intriguing to see. I mean, well, what a season it's been from you. I mean, you just from an early stage, you headed off. You built the gap up to 1.6 seconds after you went early at the start, but that gap it pretty much remained constant for certainly the first 5 or 6, 7 laps. Certainly, were you just struggling to get away from the cars behind initially?
Not really. So I was just looking for like 1.5 seconds gap. And then I made sure to be very careful on the tires and also saved a bit of fuel because like when the car is the most heavy with the most amount of fuel, it's very easy to like destroy the tires early on. So it was just taking care of the tires and just making sure the gap was around 1.5 seconds.
Understandably, and well, Daytona, a very different affair next time out. And how are you looking forward to that one? If you do decide to drive, that is.
Yeah, of course, it's a track I raced a lot, so it's going to be fun, I think. So I'm looking very much forward to that.
Well, I would ask if there's anyone you want to shout out, but I think we've done that numerous times so far this season, unless there's anyone you want to add to the list from the previous 3 rounds.
Yeah, of course, I know that my parents are watching right now, so thank you to them for sponsoring me with hardware equipment, and thank you to Stefan for keeping me company in the races.
Definitely, that's Ole Steinbraten, your winner here today, and we haven't had it fully confirmed, but what we all believe to be your champion for this season. Seb, I understand you've managed to grab another one of our drivers. Who have you managed to go and rustle up?
Managed to find our second place driver, Odin Mayavang. Of course, second place, the second time he's finished second in this championships. Welcome to the commentary booth, Odin Mayavang. Great race from yourself. You've now 2 second places in the last 2 races. How was it out there? Was it tricky, or did you find it fairly easy as you cruised to second?
I found it very tricky, to be honest. I am totally misjudged on the setup again. So that is what happens to me when it's no done setup to take from. So I just cooked the tires in a couple of first rounds and tried to save it by saving fuel and tires. And there was a big fight behind, pushing from behind. So I was hoping he would get by, and I could lay behind him and just save fuel. But he was behind me and saved. So it wasn't easy, I felt.
No, to be honest, it didn't look it out there. I mean, at one point you had 2 really quick drivers on your tail. Did you feel like you were soaking up that pressure well? How did it feel leading that pack? Because you were ahead of them for almost half an hour.
It didn't feel good at all. I wanted them all passed so I could lay and just cruise with saving fuel, because that's just a big factor in this GT3 racing. So you need to do it, and when you're pushing the air along, and Steinbraten is just way ahead, so there's no catching a break from him. So I just wanted to be behind, to be honest, and just save it and take it in the pits, because I guess it seems like there's that's where the races are won nowadays. So
Yeah, I mean, Red Bull Ring really showed that, with all the fuel saving and you losing out over a windscreen tear off of all things. So, the 2 behind you, they ended up having that incident into turn 2. Did you feel like after that happened, the race became easier, or was it still really difficult just to manage the car, manage the setup?
it was a matter of not pushing too hard and not letting up too much, because Jelvik is fast. I knew he was able to catch me if I slipped up, so I just tried to cruise it as fast as I could without losing it, I guess.
Yeah, and then I guess I want to ask you, on the last lap you had the 3-car battle up ahead of you. Were you thinking, oh no, not now, or were you trying to get past, or were you sort of okay with just hanging back and and just sort of cruising? Because it's not a great feeling, is it? When you're trying to get to the end, you've got these cars battling up ahead. You just don't want to get involved in any unnecessary incident.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. I just I hoped he didn't make any mistakes, and I knew there was some distance to Jelvik, so I was kind of banking on him not being able to close 9 seconds in 4 or 5 corners. So I didn't want to disturb the race. They were, I think it was 8th and 7th place, and I didn't want to get in behind that, so I was ready to stay behind, but he let me pass, so I was stuck in the middle, I guess.
Well, thank you very much for coming to talk to us in the commentary box. Before we let you go and celebrate your second place, anybody you'd like to give a quick shout out to at all?
It's the usual. It's my wife and my team, RPC Esports. Great team. Happy in it.
Thank you. As I said, thank you very much. And will we see you in 1 week's time as we head to Daytona for the final round?
Yep, absolutely. And thank you guys for the commentary.
No problem at all. Pleasure to do it. That was Odin Mayavang, your second place finisher. Tim, you managed to find anybody else for a quick chat?
I have indeed, Seb. I've managed to rustle up and find Stefan Helvig, who finished 3rd. But Stefan, I think it could have been 2nd. It'd been in the first half of the race before you had that contact with Oyvind. It looked like you could really pull one out of the bag here and get one up on Odin.
Yeah, my plan was to just get up 1 place in the start, which I managed, and then just fuel save which I managed quite well. I fueled 3 liters less than Odin as well. So I'm I'm quite confident I would have gotten second, but with a first like with Oyvind with his first race coming in and hitting me or when he touched the curb, kind of ruins the championship battle a bit for me. But I mean, I can still take it as we are equal in points with drop week.
You are indeed. You've both had 2 second places and 2 third places. I think ultimate question: who's going to come out on top next week at Daytona?
Oh, is it Daytona?
I do believe we're at Daytona next week. Yes.
No, it's Fuji.
Oh, sorry, apologies. I must have had a bit of a change to the schedule there. Apologies about that one. So yeah, well, Fuji, very different then. Yeah, how are you feeling about that one?
I don't have the track.
Well, look at it this way: you've never learned any bad habits around there. To put a positive spin at it, it's sometimes it's easier to start from afresh.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure you'll be fine, and it'll be all about the slipstreaming down the start-finish straight. But Stefan, before we let you go, anyone you want to give a shout out to at all?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to my mom and dad who supports me, and RSR Esport, which is my team, and Ole, who I practice with and talk with through the races. And yeah, he helps me a lot. So yeah.
Definitely, always good to hear. And that is Stefan Halberg, your 3rd place finisher here from Imola. But wow, what a round it has been once again in the championship. Pure drama. And that real defining moment in the middle of the race, and that battle for second, contact between Halvek and Rush Olsen, really defined what was, well, had all the hallmarks of that absolutely epic grandstand finish. In the end, it became more mundane, but further down the field, didn't stop other drivers having a go. Araya versus Ryan, and then Ryan versus Rude. It went right down to the wire once again here in the RacingLab Summer GT3 Cup. But wow, coming up on the channel, lots of motorsport coming up for you over the weekend, of course. Kicking off things tomorrow night. Friday nights are all about radicals, and they are coming to life from Japan and Suzuka. Then Saturday nights, well, you can join Seb for the ARA F4 Championship from the Nürburgring, and then myself and Seb later on in the evening for Formula Renault 3.5 from Silverstone. That one was an absolute barnstormer last time we visited there. Make sure you tune in for that one, because I'm sure that's going to be an absolute classic. Can Sam Borski continue on his rich vein of form this season? And a clean sweep, he's already had 7 wins from 7, remains to be seen. Sunday nights, well, it's all about big grid and big action. First off, the SRF Weekend Warriors from Lime Rock Park, followed by IGP Fun F3 from Spa. Both those series have regular attendees of over 45 drivers. It makes for a great entertainment, great racing, and what a way to round out your weekend. But wow, what a round it has been from myself, Tim Cox, Sebastian Williams, and Lewis Ward. We'll see you in a week's time. We'll be live from Japan at the iconic Fuji.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.